Some mothers murder for attention. Others kill for love while under a deadly delusion. On a summer's morning, a young family are playing happily in their living room. But these 5 children are in terrible danger. Their own mother is tortured by a monstrous urge. She wants to kill them.
There was all these crazy things going through her head, driving her to places that she didn't want to go. No one could believe that a mother would do this.
No one has ever encountered a mother like Andrea Yates.
It was just absolutely incomprehensible. This is the whole symbol of motherly love turned upside down.
To their friends in Houston, Texas, Rusty and Andrea Yates are a loving, devout couple.
I believe we got it right here. There's no question but that there was a bond of love between the two. Andrea was extremely devoted to Rusty. Everything, at least from the outside looking in, appeared to be as normal as one family could be.
But Rusty Yates has extreme religious views.
This was a guy who firmly believed that women were secondary to their husbands. A woman had to submit to their husband. Their whole purpose in life was to have children. And so, I mean, that's why she had 5, 7 and under. It was whatever God blessed them with, that's what they had.
Now then, you lads, you can call me Sergeant, just like you can call Jesus.
Each of their 5 children is named after a biblical character. Noah, age 7, John, 5, Paul, 3, Luke, 2, and Mary, 6 months.
Jesus looks at us all the time, and he knows when we're bad, and he knows when we're good.
Andrea pays a heavy psychological price for her repeated pregnancies.
Noah, come back, please. I told you, come back to the circle. Come back here and listen to the story.
Andrea had mental issues before she became the mother of 5 young children. Having all those children added so much stress to her life that her psychiatric illness flourished.
Former FBI profiler Candice DeLong has seen Andrea's illness before, postpartum psychosis.
As a psychiatric nurse, I treated many women who had this disorder.
That's Satan listening to you and talking to you. Now you listen to Mommy.
A woman becomes so severely depressed after the birth of a child that the depression spirals down into a psychosis. They are really out of touch with reality. These women may hear voices or become delusional.
The voices in Andrea's head tell her Satan will take her children.
She thought that she was a bad mother, and because she was a bad mother, all of her children were going to go to hell.
Author Diane Fanning sees each new child adding to Andrea's psychosis.
Russell once found her in a bathroom holding a knife up to her throat and ready to commit suicide.
No!
So she had a serious mental health issue.
That is not the way.
And she was obsessed with these dark, dark thoughts about what a horrible mother she was.
Boys.
And how the little tiny things that her children did were just dreadful, dreadful sins.
Noah!
Because that's what the voices were telling her.
Noah, quit it! That is not how Jesus teaches us to behave!
about this one.
For 2 years, she is in and out of psychiatric treatment. But the healthcare system limits her stays.
The mental health professionals did not feel that she should be leaving. The insurance ran out, and there was no way they could pay for it without the insurance.
Psychiatrists also warn against having any more babies. Husband Rusty has other ideas. His fundamentalist religion demands another child. After the arrival of Andrea's 5th baby, Mary, she hatches a plan to protect her children. Satan can't take them to hell if she sends them to heaven first.
She loved them so much that she took their lives.
In Houston, Texas, Rusty and Andrea Yates have a new addition to their family. 6-month-old Mary is their 5th child and first daughter. Her birth will trigger a terrible event.
It was a fairly rapid decline in Andrea's mental health after the birth of Mary. It was obvious that she was becoming increasingly ill. And she was spiraling down into this black hole of a psychotic delusion.
Andrea truly believed to the core of her being that she was a bad mother, that the devil was going to get her children and take their souls to hell. The only way to save her children, she believed, was to kill them so their souls would go to heaven to be with Jesus and they would be saved. She believed this with every fiber of her being.
No, take that out of your brother's mouth.
On the morning of June 20th, 2001, Andrea acts on her deadly delusion.
Sit down now, come on, honey. Let's just leave those for kids. Huh? No, you come and take charge of your mother, yeah? I gotta go, huh?
Rusty kissed the kids goodbye, not realizing that it was the last time he would see them alive. And he leaves for work.
Andrea Yates very carefully filled the bathtub with water.
One by one, Andrea takes her children into the bathroom.
She drowned them in the tub, held them down. They fought her for their lives.
Noah, the eldest, is the last of the 5 children to die.
As she drug him back to the bathroom to drown him, he kept saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Because like little children often do, Noah took the guilt onto himself. Because we all, when we're little, think our parents are perfect. And whatever we do, we deserve it.
Tenderly, Andrea places her children's dead bodies together, clasping baby Mary's hand in her brother's.
It's almost as if little brother is taking care of baby sister on the road to eternity. Andrea absolutely believed she was saving their souls. There's no question about it.
Calmly, Andrea calls her husband.
You need to come home.
After Andrea drowned the children, she did not try to cover up her crime. She called the police and told them to come over. She called her husband and told him to come home. Why would she do that if she believed what she had done was wrong? There's no explanation. She wouldn't.
Rusty stands by the wife who murdered his own flesh and blood.
He realizes that mental illness caused what occurred. He's never blamed her for taking the lives of their children.
Under Texan law, Andrea Yates faces death by lethal injection.
She should have been put into a hospital right away, but instead she was put on trial, threatened with a death sentence. She wasn't a heinous capital murderer. She was a sick, sick woman, and she needed help, not the spectacle of a trial.
I don't think a civilized society should ever execute the mentally ill when they are compelled to commit a crime because of their illness.
But she wants to be executed.
She didn't want a trial. She didn't want me as a lawyer. She wanted to go immediately to death row because she believed in her unreal world that Satan lived within her. And by being executed, she would save the world from the devil.
Andrea Yates escapes the death penalty. In March 2002, she is sentenced to life in prison.
There is so much tragedy in the story of Andrea Yates. 5 children had their lives taken away before they really had a chance to live them. That is just so inconceivably horrible. 5 children at once. Andrea, too. She is a victim of her own mental health. She will never, ever recover from this.
Human instinct demands we protect the young. But sometimes instinct is overruled by stronger impulses. A disturbed mind can transform a protector into a predator. Lakeland, Florida, 1980. 4-year-old Jeffrey Davis is getting to know his new babysitter. Christine Falling gets along well with the little boy. Jeffrey's mother believes she is leaving her son in safe hands.
I think that she was doing a good job as far as, as taking care of the babies,
But this babysitter's playful persona is hanging by a thread. A thread that is about to snap. When the mother of Jeffrey Davis returns home, she walks into a nightmare.
Certainly it was a terrible blow for anyone to lose a child, especially, babies.
Christine claims the boy simply stopped breathing. The autopsy blames a heart condition called myocarditis, a condition that is very rarely fatal.
Now, myocarditis is really considered a cause of death only when everything else has been excluded.
Jeffrey is not the first baby to die in Christine Falling's care. And he will not be the last. When the deaths are reported to the sheriff of Calhoun County, Buddy Smith, He knows something isn't right.
It was just a strange thing that all the babies that was in her care had died, and it was a mystery there for a good while.
Many put the trail of dead down to bad luck or an unknown virus. No one dares to imagine the children are being murdered by their slow and apparently harmless babysitter.
It seems that she had maybe a nice nature.
Hey, Christine. Hey, Liz. How are ya?
And people maybe thought, well, Christine couldn't possibly have done this. She's too slow. She's not maniacal. And so they ruled her out.
Yet the seemingly gentle Christine Falling started killing early.
Oftentimes, when young children abuse small animals, it's acting out rage and frustration over something they can control.
As a child, she would test if cats had 9 lives by dropping them from a great height.
She grew up fairly poor, and families did not have good paying jobs and make a lot of money, you know. And I think probably from the beginning had some problems.
Local police were well aware that Christine didn't have a happy childhood. She was abused sexually and physically.
I recall the former sheriff, W.C. Reeder, worked a case where the child was taken to the hospital, and the first word he got from the mother was that she had gotten run over by the car, and he got to checking into it further and found out that this child had been beaten pretty bad with a bottle.
Because of Christine's family situation, the early life poverty, the low IQ, I don't think she stood a chance of having a normal life.
Poverty and abuse leave their scars on Christine. But they are not the only reasons she becomes a killer. By the time she turns 18, Christine Falling is a ticking time bomb.
Ready?
3 days after the death of Jeffrey Davis, Christine Falling is asked to babysit again. She will look after 2-year-old Joseph Spring while his parents attend a funeral.
Say bye-bye.
The funeral of Christine's previous victim.
Crash.
With her background and her educational background, she just did not have the ability, you know, to get out and get good jobs. And she just picked up jobs like babysitting. And she felt like, I guess, this was the only way she could maybe make some extra money and survive.
Play here.
Christine has a childlike quality that children find appealing. But it is not an act. She has below normal intelligence,
Play pause, run.
making her disturbed mind deadly.
People with very low IQs, such as Christine, tend to also have a low frustration level. And they will sometimes lash out in an irrational rage.
When Joseph starts to cry, Christine feels her nerves fray. Then the voices start. Voices only Christine can hear.
The voices are not usually very nice. They say horrible things, they suggest horrible things.
Auditory hallucinations are a symptom of a well-known psychiatric condition.
Schizophrenia is a disorder of thoughts and thinking. And it's very difficult, if not impossible, for the schizophrenic to know if the voice is real or not.
Shush.
Joseph has been silenced. But the voices in Christine's head have not. Soon, they will instruct her to kill again. At a children's graveyard in Calhoun County, Florida, tombstones bear witness to lives cut tragically short. Some by accident, some by illness, some by murder.
You know, I was just amazed that it wasn't picked up on sooner.
In the early 1980s, a babysitter called Christine Falling is killing children in her care. Authorities believe the deaths are of natural causes.
She never gave a good explanation as to why, other than she'd saying these babies would start crying and she couldn't get them to hush.
Leaving a child alone with Christine Falling, even for a moment, can be a deadly mistake. As her stepsister, Geneva Burnett Daniels, is about to discover. When Geneva goes inside to buy diapers for her 8-month-old daughter, Jennifer, the baby begins to cry.
People such as Christine can't handle it when things don't go right. And sometimes they will lash out or attack whatever it is that's making them upset.
Christine's low IQ means she is already reaching breaking point. But it's another mental condition that will push her over the edge.
Christine suffered from frontal lobe epilepsy. One of the things that we do see oftentimes in people that have this, along with a low IQ, is that they later are involved in violent crimes.
Like Christine's other killings, this one leaves no trace.
Sometimes smothering may leave no clues whatsoever, particularly if smothering, which is blockage of the airways, is caused by placing something loose or fluffy, such as a soft blanket or a pillow loosely over the mouth and nose. It may leave very few clues.
This baby ain't breathing.
Christine, what happened?
I don't know.
Oh my God! Oh my God, what happened to her?
5 babies die in Christine Falling's care. Under pressure from the local community, she checks herself into the hospital, asking doctors to find out if she's passing on a mystery disease to the children.
I really think that her desire was that somebody really find out that she was killing these babies.
The doctors find nothing, and Christine asks them to call the police.
And she says, okay, I'm ready to tell you.
Sheriff Buddy Smith will never forget what she said next.
She said she had a way of choking these babies without leaving any signs. But she said, you know, it just amazed her that she could do this and nobody pick up on it.
Christine admits to smothering 3 children. Police believe she also killed 2 other infants and a 77-year-old man. Poorly educated, mentally disabled, and brutally abused, Christine Falling's future has never been bright. And now she will spend it behind bars.
I was pretty much convinced after working this case that is, if you're mistreated by your parents or someone else, then you tend to be the same way whenever you get grown.
She's often said in her incarceration, I think back, I wonder why I did this. I don't see her as a sociopath. I see her as a very poor soul, who, by the way, needs to remain in prison.
A quiet fall night.
Somebody help me, please! Somebody!
Shattered by a mother's frantic screams. Her 2 children have been kidnapped.
A black man's taking my babies! A black man's taking my babies!
She stopped at a traffic light on Highway 49. She said that a man jumped in the car and told her to get out.
Get out the car! Right there!
In the back seat.
He just got in the car and drove away.
I try not to even think about what those kids faced because it can become overwhelming.
I can't! I can't!
1994, the town of Union, South Carolina. The kidnapping of Susan Smith's 2 boys grips the country.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'm Sheriff how well-to-do me are David and Susan Smith. Their 2 young boys are missing.
Michael Smith is 3 years old. His brother, Alex, just 14 months.
To whoever has our boys, we ask that you please don't hurt them and bring them back.
Their father, David Smith, still feels the pain today.
It's probably the worst gut feeling I'd ever had, and maybe still I've ever had.
Please return our children to us safe and unharmed.
I loved my children very much. And they were, all I had.
The boys disappear at a time when David and Susan's marriage is in trouble.
It was a pretty rocky marriage from the beginning.
She fell for somebody that was actually her supervisor where she worked. And so things started falling apart.
Susan is in love with Tom Findlay, a wealthy local businessman.
So when are we gonna meet next?
Soon. I promise you.
Anytime before the weekend.
In the middle of '94, we decided to separate, and we filed for divorce.
But as the search for their children continues, David and Susan are united in grief. As newspaperman Gary Henderson watches Susan, his reporter's instinct kicks in.
I never saw any real tears. I heard sounds that sounded like someone trying to cry.
I don't know how else to put it, and I can't imagine life without them.
Susan, you know that?
I noticed immediately she was speaking in the past tense, and that sort of sent a flag up for me. Why would you be speaking of these kids in the past tense if you really thought they were still out there alive somewhere?
Law enforcement officers are also skeptical. They put Susan on a lie detector.
Susan continually failed one question on the polygraph. Do you know where your children are?
To me, she was failing because she was distraught. She was so upset. She had just had her kids, literally ripped from her.
But prosecutor Tommy Pope is becoming suspicious. Susan keeps changing her story about the carjacking.
So when law enforcement's not getting accurate information by arguably the person that has the most vested interest in giving it to you, naturally questions arise.
Susan, now, we've been over this and over this. I'm not here to hear your story again.
The investigators turned up the heat and really leaned on Susan.
I don't know.
Any black man with 2 white boys in the back of his car, they would have seen him.
Because they actually knew that she was lying.
They don't believe your story. They don't believe you're describing a real person.
What they needed to do was get her to confess because they needed to find those boys.
Will you pray with me?
Sheriff Wells utilized a well-known technique in police interrogations, and that is what we call the come to Jesus talk.
Please bless our sons, Michael and Alex. Bring them safely back to you, O Lord.
He appealed to her sense of decency and fear of God to get the truth.
Amen.
After 9 days of lies, Susan admits to the awful truth.
I killed my boys. I drove them into the lake. And I threw them in. I drove them into the lake.
In South Carolina, police have spent 9 days searching for 2 missing boys. But the little boys haven't been kidnapped. They've been murdered, drowned by their own mother.
I had to accept that, we weren't going to find them, that they weren't coming back.
David Smith now knows the terrible truth about what his wife has done.
It was more of a shock when I found out that she had confessed to doing it, because I had stood by her for 9 days, and I believed every story, every lie that she told. I believed her.
It was hard to look at her and believe she could have done something like that. And I think that's what everybody had a problem with.
The vast majority of mothers who kill their children do so accidentally in a fit of rage. They go to hit the child, and they hit the child too hard. That is not what was happening with Susan Smith.
Susan is haunted by a violent past.
Not listen to you anymore. I came in like 5 minutes ago. What the hell are you doing? You sit there on the couch.
A lot of things happen to Susan that don't happen to other people.
Push me, huh? You think you can push me and get away with it? Yeah! I don't think so. That's not.
Susan did have a very hard childhood coming up. Her father killed himself when she was very small. She was molested by her stepfather.
Susan could not handle rejection from a male. This is not uncommon among female sex abuse victims as adults that were abused by their fathers. They cannot stand the rejection of a man. It tears them apart.
On the day the boys disappear, Susan suffers the rejection that she dreads.
She was hoping to marry Tom Finley. Tom Finley wrote her a letter and told her that he didn't want kids. And so that was a problem for Susan because she really wanted to marry Tom Finley.
The letter is the catalyst for Susan's cold-hearted decision.
Susan cared about herself. She was very narcissistic, with a little bit of sociopathy mixed in there, and her need for the attention of all the men that she wanted. It made for a very, very dangerous cocktail for those 2 little boys.
Shattered by her abandonment, Susan straps her boys in the car and drives to a nearby lake.
She decided they were in the way and they were causing her pain. And so she merely was getting rid of the source of the pain.
Susan stopped at the top of that ramp, which is a pretty good fall down to the lake. She opened the door and hopped out. She took her car out of gear and let the car go.
She said that when the guy took her kids, that they were screaming, "Mommy, Mommy." I bet they were. In a dark car that's now rolled down into the lake, and they're floating, and they're screaming for their mother.
Who knows how long it took the children to die? How long did they float out there before the car turned upside down and dropped into the water?
In the car, there would have been panic. They were restrained in their car seats, so they could only reach up just far enough to keep their nose above water. In all likelihood, they would have experienced panic, terror, as they could no longer get a breath.
Michael and Alex are found 9 days later, still strapped into their car seats.
When the diver found that the car's upside down, you know, it's murky because it's been filled with water, and the lake water was dark. But he saw a small hand kind of pressed against the glass. A lot of guys I'd worked with for years, grown men who had worked hard on this case, that had struggled to try to bring those boys back home, and they were just openly weeping.
In July 1995, Susan Smith is found guilty of 2 counts of murder.
Susan's unusual in that the murder of her sons was premeditated, very cold-hearted, very cold-blooded. It had nothing to do with losing her temper. It all had to do with making her life temporarily better. And in that regard, she's a very unusual mother. Thank God.
Susan is sentenced to 30 years in prison. David Smith still lives every day with what she did.
There's no answer to give somebody on how to deal, especially with the loss of a child. You have to find it inside yourself. I forgave Susan for what she did a long time ago, because to me it was, keeping that in was letting her win, and I had to let that go to move on. I don't ultimately think that death would have been the best punishment, because this way now she has to live with, she has to wake up with every day what she did to Michael and Alex.